This program is brought to you in association with First National Bank of Botswana.
FNB, how can we help you?
A state of heightened uncertainty has tendencies to illuminate the cracks in systems that have otherwise been unnoticeable during normal periods of living. Take, for example, banking. Before the times we live in today of the COVID-19 pandemic, we used every mode possible to bank. The advent pandemic, however, shifted us from going into banks and using ATMs to using online platforms such as internet banking, banking apps, and virtual wallets. While this was necessary to decongest and prevent the spread of the virus, people who did not have access to internet or ATMs to withdraw cash from their virtual wallets could not use their money, and so they were left inconvenienced. This situation has highlighted a need to enhance banking services access in the remotest areas of our country, where network is still very poor or not there at all, where ATMs are still considered a luxury. On a normal day, people from these places have to commute to a serviced area to access their money. During lockdown, only special movement was allowed by way of applying for a permit to grocery stores, banks, and other service centers. Even then, simply applying did not mean that one would be successful. These limitations meant that access to these essential services to transact or buy everyday necessities from their local supermarkets was restricted. What else can be explored as a means of enhancing the banking experience in places that have limited to no facilities at all in Botswana? Our guest is financial markets strategist Mphoeng.
We need to do a lot more, definitely, with regards to moving away from brick and mortar banking and trying to move a lot more to things like internet banking. And not just the internet banking, but just generally doing all of our transactions online. So being able to buy groceries, being able to order things, being able to get services while sitting in the comfort of your home, and having them efficiently get to your house. And even in banking, a lot of people moving towards even self-service services that don't require you to be calling call centers and things like that. If you noticed, quite a lot of companies were actually moving towards having chats over WhatsApp, chats over Facebook, and using chatbots. So I think technology is allowing us to uptake and do things a lot more without having to go to the bank to inquire or to do transactions.
So then, how can internet connectivity be fast-tracked in these areas? So that people who are already banked actually have access to these services that the banks offer.
There's actually been quite a lot of work, I think not just at Botswana level, but also at an Africa level. There's an Africa Moonshot program, which the idea is that by 2030, that they're trying to move as many Africans online. And I know that even in Botswana, we've got targets that relate to that. And I think Mphoeng is doing a lot of work in that regard to try to roll out quite a lot of internet and to get us not just to internet, but to at least 3G. So a certain amount of speed and a certain amount of quality. And the idea then would be that for ISPs and for ISPs to then take over and use that public infrastructure and set up private spaces going out into rural areas and into and making sure that there's networks and cellular networks going into rural areas. So hopefully we'll see that very soon.
Mphoeng, let us move away from internet connectivity for a bit, okay? And then discuss other solutions that could be used or adopted to assist these people who are already banked but need access to transact.
There's definitely already solutions that exist. We even wallets such as e-wallet. We've seen wallets such as that where people can have some access to bank accounts or to banking without necessarily having a bank account. Now, where this has been done on a much larger scale and very well is in Kenya. It's a particular application called M-Pesa, where about 93% of Kenyans are actually on M-Pesa. And how M-Pesa works is it creates a phone number, and your phone number effectively becomes your bank account, and it becomes a wallet, just like e-wallets. And what happens there is you're then able to transact a whole lot more. So every individual, every business, every shop, every combi has an M-Pesa account, and what you are then able to do there using USSD is to basically transact using whatever *15 something, and you are able to then trade. So you would go, you would buy your food, you'd get to the counter. The lady on the counter then would show you the M-Pesa account number for the shop. You do to the transfer as you're there and switch to your wallet. It would be a perfect solution as well in that space, because all you would need to then do is to make sure that your platform's interface. So you would need to just be able to connect your bank account to your phone number, which a lot of the banks have already done, and then still be able to transact. So what it would do is it would actually allow for people, so where you don't have a swiping machine, or where you don't have access to internet and things like that, it would allow for those transactions to still happen in the middle of nowhere in rural Botswana, or even you not using things like smartphones. So you would then also be able to use USSD and Bosedi Lami, for argument's sake.
Dumelang betso, ke nna Bontle. Ke tsile go le rutuntsha ka ikwadiso sešwa ya dikompone le maina a dikgwebo mo maranyaneng a Online Business Registration System, OBRS. Tsena mo inthaneteng o ye ko www.sipa.co.bw o tobetse create profile. O tla tlhoka go tsenya email address ya gago, maina ka botlalo, nomoro ya omang, address le nomoro ya gago ya mogala. O tla fiwa nomoro tse 4 ka SMS. Di tsenye. Legato le le latelang ke go senka kompone kana leina la gago la kgwebo. O bo tobetsa mafoko a reng re-register now. O tla kopiwa go tsenya information yotlhe ya kompone kana leina la kgwebo. Tsenya dinomoro tsa omang tsa batsamaisi, beng le bakwaledi botlhe ga mmogo le di-address le megala ya bone. Fa o fetsa o tla ya go dituelong go bofefo go dirisa karata ya gago ya banka. O tla tsenya nomoro ya gago ya karata le dikitsiso tsotlhe tse di mo karateng. Banka e tla romela nomoro ya sephiri. E tsenye go feleletsa tuelo. Setlankana sa gago se tla romelwa ko email addresseng ya gago. Gakologelwa, o tshwanetse wa kwadisa sešwa dikompone tsotlhe tsa gago ga mmogo le maina a dikgwebo. Se salele kwa morago. Tsaya tšhono eno ya koketso ya kwadiso sešwa. Letsatsi la bofelo ke Sedimonthole a tlhola malatsi a le 2 monongwaga. Sipa, re sireletsa dikgwebo.
Welcome back to First Issues. Our conversation with financial markets strategist Mphoeng on enhancing banking services access continues. Let's talk about the mobile wallet system that is used predominantly in Kenya, as you so put it. What would be the advantage of having such a system here in Botswana?
The biggest advantage that you would have is that you would move a lot more people from the cash society to society where they're on a platform. And the biggest advantage for that is, one, convenience. So people don't need to carry cash around. But you also have a scenario where we would then be able to see all the transactions that are happening. So you'd have an ease of doing business at that level, where people, wherever they are able to transact. But that would then allow us to be able to see, those transactions. So the advantage there as well is we would then be able to fight anti-money laundering a lot more, because we're able to then see those transactions. So it would be very advantageous for the country if we were having all transactions, pretty much moving all of our transactions to a point where we are actually able to see them.
What would need to happen ultimately for these systems to be brought here for the improvement of access to banking transaction services in these places that do not have facilities or very limited?
In Botswana, in terms of wallets, we've got quite a few. So that would be a particular challenge. But I think that challenge could be sorted out by simply integrating people across platforms, so that different wallets can speak to each other as long as they're using a phone. I mean, we've seen that done, pay to sell. So effectively, that's something that would need. You would just need enabling regulatory environment that allows the platforms to speak to each other. Once we are all on that, then it would, then we would just need for regulation to allow for different things to move across different platforms. So allow businesses to be able to buy and sell using that, and allow for people to get paid there and be able to transact across platforms. And then what the beauty of that is it would then allow for people to innovate on top and be able to offer solutions and products to different businesses and different entities in that space.